I want to say first post-pandemic, but post-mid-pandemic, post-quarantine, live reading at the Betsy. We're so happy to be here. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for making the effort to come out with your masks and your vaccines and everything that you've done, and maybe your fears and maybe your joys. But thank you for coming. We love the Betsy. The Betsy is our first home. We always say without the Betsy, swim wouldn't be. So let me introduce myself. I'm Catherine Esposito Prescott, one of the co-founders of SWIM. SWIM, as you all know, supports women identifying writers through a publication called Swim Every Day and through this reading series. I'm joined here by co-editor Caridad Moro-Gorlier back there, and our wonderful staff reader and IT guru over here, Melin Enamorado Pinheiro. And thank you so much for joining us, girls. And it really is a labor of love, all that we do, and it brings us so much joy. And if it didn't, we couldn't do it. But I think bringing poetry into the world, however we can, whether it's through Instagram, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through Zoom, whether it's face-to-face, makes us all a little bit richer. So without further ado, I will introduce you to the readers tonight. We are so excited to have you here. We're welcoming Cynthia Atkins and Lúcia Leão. And Cynthia was to join us, let me go back in time, the fall of 2020, I think it was, when we had informally invited you out and you had accepted, and then the world shut down and we weren't sure how and when we'd be able to proceed again. So, but now you're here, so it's like everything is right with the world. So we're really happy to have you here, and Lúcia, we're really happy to have you as well, reading, and we hope that, you receive as much from it as we do. So what I'll do is I'll introduce you, first Lúcia, and then we'll have a little break, and then I'll introduce you, Cynthia, if that works for you. And you can read, you can read all night. And there's water in the back should anyone want water, okay? I feel like we're like strangers in a strange land that was once very familiar, and now I'm not sure how to walk on it, It's like, I feel a bit like we're walking on the moon. Okay, so Lúcia Leão. She is a translator and a writer, originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Her poems have been published in South Florida Poetry Journal, Swim Every Day, Gyroscope Review, Sheraton Review, Harvard Review Online, among others. Her work is included in the anthology Grabbed, Poets and Writers on Sexual Assault, Empowerment, and Healing, edited by Richard Blanco, Caridad Moro, right there, Gorlier, and Nikki Mustaki, and Elisa Albo. Lúcia has been living in Florida for 25 years. Please, let's give a warm Miami welcome to Lúcia.
Thank you. Very happy to be here tonight, reading with Cynthia, and I'd like to thank the SWIM team for inviting me as the local poet. I'm from Rio, as you know, or may not know, and I'm constantly dealing with the notions of place and belonging, as many people do, with different levels of comfort, with different life situations. So for me to be officially called a local poet and to be here tonight as, kind of representing somehow a place and the place where I live, it really has a special meaning to me. So thank you. And I'm going to read something I wrote just a few weeks ago, but that I've been writing in my mind for many years. And I think it's done, but we never know. So it's called Just Doing Our Job. The day my father died, there were fireworks in the mountains in the morning in Rio. Brazil was playing the first match against Croatia in the World Cup 2006 that afternoon. In downtown, priests blessed the ones who wished to find a partner, begging favors of Saint Anthony. My father carried his name. My father hated the politics of soccer and religion. A river had overflown in winter. The streets shone with mud from within. Two men who came to dress him up hid a portable radio that narrated the match. His head just below it, their tactic working in slow motion, while the game. But I was the one who apologized. They stopped halfway, the struggle with the soft blue woolen pullover we had picked for that trip. At churches, they gave out little hardened breads to starved hearts. So it seems this topic of local informed my selection for tonight, as you will see. And as a local poet, many of my poems have been published in the South Florida Poetry Review. I was there for their first issue in 2016, and I'm in their anthology. And I really love the work that Michael and Lenny do, and all the editors. And one example is the special section they had for the Surfside condo, the tragedy of that building that happened in June 2021. And I wrote a poem for that section, and it's called Tired. We held our arms tall, my sisters and I, but our veins were filled with salt water. In the darkness, we crumbled. Abuse always happens in shadows. In the parking lot, in the pool area, at the lobby, the scenes have left. For months, we tried holding it tall, being foundations of towers. With the background of palm trees and children's laughter, we desperate, we transfixed, we columns of concrete mumbling and tropical rain water, we collapsed. This poem is also related to Florida, is in the anthology Grabbed, Poets and Writers on Sexual Assault that Catherine just mentioned. It is a project that started here. The editors live in South Florida or have a connection, deep connection to South Florida. One of them is Caridad Moro, who is here. And this is the poem I submitted, and it's great to have in this anthology. It's called 105 Degrees South. The secret is to kill it right, but that summer doesn't die. Remember, it was there where men still pump gas into our cars, deliver their jokes, make eye contact. Your hair, oily and mine, the seats gluing our laughs, our ties, driving to my first home, your house. And although they could help us, you said, let's get some air outside. Forgetting our dresses were transparent with sweat. Remember the way they could see us? I do. This one was published in Swim Every Day, and the poets who have their work there know what it feels in the morning to see what part of the poem they selected on the Instagram posts and social media. I follow it closely, I read it every morning. And mine was published on January 23rd, 2020, and it's called As If It Were Tomorrow. As if it were tomorrow, you arrive and unpack in the middle of me. In the kitchen, tea labels you unglue, kid-wise, unearthing the organic flavors of fair trade gardens. I offer what I have: basil, ginger, pink pepper, and fizzy water. The yellow kettle, a fountain. Your clothes unrest the sofa, thin jackets, gentle shoes, multiple shapes of ties, your exhibited emptiness, the space I can hug, dispatch denials. This is one of many poems I write about water, islands, place, space. Place has love, love has place, the third bank of love, and place again. So it was published in the South Florida Poetry Journal, 2017. And I'm going to read two more after that haven't been published. And this one is called Because I Was Thirsty When I Met You. Because I was thirsty when I met you, I saw only water. It wasn't a shipwreck or a drowning, but I missed your island. And today, when it becomes so difficult to talk about geography, when it is not easy to speak about our bodies, our glasses dripping sand, I can't sit down and watch. I didn't see you were an island. My thirst, a congregation of now scattered molecules, a raven, a rave, what is and is not, solid in me, a haven, a rugged, ragged shore, you. Excess. Baggage fees, they charge me in every trip. The tragedy is not to be away from home, but to carry it with me and hear at every step how it breaks, at every possible stop. If you clean your house every day, you know what it means to survive the oblique. What fits in a shovel, what in a rag doesn't escape, cannot be considered garbage in the triturated interactions with corners. A story told on wood knots on which you spread furniture oil, flannel cloth insisting on protection against noise. The diagonal of these stairs, you know it well. And your friends, when they come visit, don't see a drop of splattered glue left unscraped where the sun mixes its narrative of disappointment and light. You know well the ritualism, almost ungrateful, in which lies your house, to where each object vanishes. And that's the reason. That's why. Well, when the pandemic hit, I think 1 or 2 months into it, those heavy, dense, quiet months, I started thinking that no one was going to write love poems anymore. It's over. And I started to write a series called The Last Love Poem. And I wrote, I think, 10 or 12 of them, and then at some point I stopped. I think I didn't want to write the last of the last love poems. And I thought they were just a distraction, you know, from the other things that were happening. But I kept them, and I'm going to read 2. The last love poem was dispatched in the train with the shoes that didn't match. You saw it as heels became flat, the legs extended, the feet closing the gap between grief and relief. The last are not the easiest to lose. The deception of the end, a light crossing us from the opposite direction. Another bundle will come next, socks, maybe, a bra or 2, or only a hat. Am I living with it? The last love poem joined forces with a song to pretend it could live and still be who it was. I listened. This one was published in the Gyroscope Review 2020, and it's called Because the City. Because the city is my lover, I don't visit every day. I save copies of her streets, corners, bread shops she keeps drawing on the back of her mist. Fantasy is a costume she feeds me mostly in winter. In the summer, it's me who awakens her in my steps. It's heat. There are pronouns floating in the river. We grab margins and branches, the letting go and our partings, reminding me in my original language, city is feminine. So in keeping with the idea behind Swim, promoting writers, taking their work to places, to more places, I'd like to read a poem by Sarah Rebecca Kensley. She's a translator like me. She's a poet like me. She writes in Portuguese and English like I do. But she was born in the UK and she moved to Brazil 10 years ago. She also co-runs an independent bookstore and a small press focused on contemporary literature in the city of Salvador, Bahia. I had thought about bringing tonight a Brazilian poet in translation, but then I felt that Sarah's beautiful poetry would take us farther, would keep us moving with the language, with the notions of place and space. And she's a self-translator. She translates her poems and she's constantly rewriting herself, the self through that. And I thought that bringing a foreigner who lives in my country of origin, who writes in my language, would be nice tonight. And I'm going to read the poem first in English and then in Portuguese. There are people here, there are Brazilians here, and there are Brazilians watching from home. And I hope Sarah is one of them in Salvador, in Bahia. And even if you don't understand Portuguese, but you can get the music of the language, and Sarah's Brazilian Portuguese, my Brazilian Portuguese, her voice in my voice. So thank you again for coming, for listening, and for people who are here and people who are there. And this is Sarah's poem. It's called Continental Drift. Here, the irony is different, but the weight belt still pulls you into the abyss. For the nth time, I say yes. It is the same sun that heats up what I suppose then must be the same Atlantic. And no, I'm not inclined to beans, but thanks again. Here, the velocity of the mermaids at the surface is different. There, the mermaids are insured for everything, for their fishy tails, which also seem from here to be less green. Deriva continental. Aqui a ironia é diferente, mas o cinto de lastro serve para levar você ao abismo igual. Depois da enésima pergunta, digo sim, é o mesmo sol que esquenta, o que suponho é o mesmo Atlântico. E não, ao feijão não sou tão chegada, não. Obrigada. Aqui a velocidade de subida da sereia é diferente. Lá as sereias têm seguro de tudo, dos seus rabos de peixe, que são também menos verdes. Thank you. Obrigada.
Thank you, Lucia. That was such a treat. As it is listening to live poems again, as it is listening to the poems lift off the page, and then to hear the audience respond. That's something we haven't had the privilege of, to hear that when a poem hits just right. Thank you, thank you. Okay, next up is Cynthia Atkins. Cynthia is the author of Psyche's Weathers, In the Event of Full Disclosure and Still Life with God, the book that was birthed during the pandemic. and a chapbook duets forthcoming from Harbor Editions. Her work has appeared in numerous journals, including Alaska Quarterly Review, Balm, Cleaver Magazine, Diode, Florida Review, Green Mountains Review, Rust and Moth, North American Review, Seneca Review, Swim Every Day, Thrush, Tinderbox, and Verse Daily. Formerly, Atkins worked as the assistant director for the Poetry Society of America and has taught English and creative writing, most recently at Blue Ridge Community College. She is an interviews editor for American Micro Reviews and Interviews. She earned her MFA from Columbia University and has earned fellowships and prizes from Breadloaf's Writers Conference, the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, the Writer's Voice, and Writers at Work. Atkins lives on the Maury River of Rockbridge County, Virginia, with artist Philip Welch and their family. Cynthia, welcome at long last.
At long last, it is a pleasure to be here. I was so touched that they came back around after they offered me this residency, the editors, Catherine and Jen and Caridad, because it was really depressing setting up readings and things for a book that was coming out. I spent 6 months setting up readings and doing all the things you do for a book, and then March 11th is literally the day the world closed down and the day my book came out. So it's like everything I did was moot. So, and I was having a really bad day the day you guys wrote and said, we'd still, doing a thing on Zoom is not like staying at the Betsy Hotel. And you don't know, that day you just saved me. It was a real, something I just needed that kind of affirmation. So thank you. So this is my book, my new one, Still Life with God. I felt it was kind of a risky title because I'm not a very religious person in the way we think about religion or organized religion. I consider myself a spiritual person, but one of my questions is my faith, what do I believe? It's a process, we're all going there. But in some ways I felt like I wanted to take God back from religion in dealing and thinking about some of the poems in this book. And God doesn't always come off as a wonderful creature in this book either. In fact, in a lot of ways, I feel like God is the patriarchy in this book, but a very authoritarian figure. So different titles have God in them. God is a library, God is a medicine chest. This is God is my alibi. Back when I was in college, or even sooner in high school, we smoked a lot of pot, and it was illegal back then. But one of the things that really bothers me in our culture, as so many things do when we talk about institutional racism, is one of the things with marijuana, because half of my friends went to jail for that illegal pot, while the other half had lawyers and went to college. And now we have a lot of white men making gobs of money off marijuana trade, while many people are still sitting in jail for a joint. So this poem is called God is My Alibi. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
God is my alibi. Abide with me, the night shadows, caterwauling on the walls, lava lamp red as the squad car pulls up to the curb. Inside, a fish tank shifts, precarious, colors dizzy in a kitchen of bodies without form. Pot partying. I made out with my boyfriend as our friend gave his hands to be cuffed into silence. Whispers in the next room. All said and done, Willie sat in jail for an ounce of stale attic, mouseweed. We went to college, to Cavill, in a dormitory of freshmen. My smoky boyfriend kissing me prickly as hemp. Now a country soured and stomped down the road. Some hungry, some cold, someone shot dead for a joint. Truth be told, only a shade of pale and a lawyer's lunch between us, while my boyfriend edifies me on a study pillow. Willie salves in jail for 4 scorched years. Only a bag of weed and a lawyer's lunch between us. Bodies losing form in trees where prayers are blazed on fire. A car drives slow through a neighborhood, throwing caution to stoops. Headlines blur, not with ink, but with suffering. Shadows lose form, embalmed to a smoky room as the world thrums into one long conundrum. I am dizzy in a room with many doors and a lava lamp and a boyfriend who takes matters into his own hands. On a study pillow, a different perfume on his navel. Under the radar, the snare drums of the quietest kind of war. Just say no. Poverty's train went to jail with Willie, his mama sobbing on the rail. And where were you the night in question? I was tying my shoes with the scissors, sweeping pine needles under a tree. My boyfriend rolled a fat one and checked out like a dog gone missing about the town to Cavill at the moon. A book and a telephone rests on my belly, a shade of pale and a lunch. The newspapers wrapped in skin and bone. One of the things, somebody was asking me what my favorite word was. I think it was something on Facebook. They said, what's your favorite word? And what came up to me was the word desuetude. Does anybody know what that means? Desuetude. I think it's such a beautiful word. It means things that are no longer in use. And I'm always interested in things that are no longer in use. And for me, some of the most romantic, beautiful things are some man-made things, like a train. I think is a very beautiful thing, almost like nature made it, the whistle and everything. And the other thing was the phone booth, the old phone booth. And maybe not all of you are old enough to remember them, but I sure spent many time in phone booths when they cost a dime. So this is kind of a homage to the phone booth. Phone booth. Days of black and white, cubicle of standing still in time. You, the lit match behind barbed wire, where junkyard dogs call to the ancients. Nothing more distinct as a voice etching the sentient of breath caught with a monarch wing behind glass. So many ghosts left lipstick on mouths. Plastic like fool's gold in rivers where we'll return to collect tin cans, dimes, a memory locked in a factory of keepsakes. Give us relief from the rain, from the house that keeps being sad with leaving. This privy of space to dodge bullets of remorse. Behind a street lamp, behind the moon glow, as if God's operator were eavesdropping on the tarmac of speech itself, where two lovers are saying goodbye. One heavy breath furnishing the empty room of never. Oh, I thought I wanted to read Home from Swim, of course. And this is called Jewish Singles. My mother was divorced way back in the day when no one else's parents were divorced, so it was so taboo that I had to lie about it. I was 8 years old, and I would have my girlfriends come and sleep over, and I would not tell them that my father was not living in the house. I thought it was so taboo. At 8 years old, I started growing this gray streak because I know this like little lie in me was coming out of my hair. And my hair's dyed now, so you can't see it. But at 8 years old, they called me skunk because I had a gray streak. My friends, of course, told me they knew all along. So, you know, I carried this lie with me for a year, and they all knew. But back then it was, you know, now it's not a big deal, but back then it was. And the idea of my mother going out and dating and things like that were very new back then. But on the other hand, it was the first time I saw my mom as a woman, not just a mother. So it kind of was a time of coming into my own too, as a girl. Jewish Singles. You'll notice this in the 70s because a can of Tab pops up. I don't know if Tab even exists anymore. Jewish Singles. She held a pink can of Tab in her right hand, bangles on her hairless wrist, a beehive hairdo. It was her Liz Taylor look. When sad, her eyes went small like gold purses clicking shut. The color Kodak family of smiles, faux as a salesman's pitch. Our dad took all the photos until he didn't. One by one, Mom met them at Jewish Singles. The femme perfume on her black cocktail dress would linger until dawn. One night my sister babysat. We slimed and puckered with Mom's makeup. I gorged the rouge dark into a widow's peak. Eclipsed in the medicine cabinet, we found the little pink plastic quark of tablets, one for each day of the month. I felt the 10 commandments gasp for air, a goldfish out of water in my gut. I pictured our mom on the couch at Uncle Irv's, her legs captured by his pasty belly. That night, I bled for the first time, discovered the ache of women. My new flannel pajamas ruined. Some days, a black dog lived on a street in my heart, jabbed at the wire fence where God stamped a jinx on me. In a December blizzard, while we ate popcorn and played hangman, our mom drove the wicked, snowy roads as her Liz Taylor eyelashes blinked with the flashers, that disc of a hole to get to the tome, no, not made in stone, but downy feathers at her other bed at Uncle Irv's. Of course, that wasn't my uncle, but that back then, that's what they called boyfriends, was your uncle. And isn't that creepy? This poem was just published in The Night Heron Barks, another beautiful journal out in the world. And I think I try to write a cricket poem every year because I have a thing about crickets. I think they're very, kind of my muse. I hate the locusts at the end of summer, and I live in Virginia. It's so hot in August, and you get this, buzzing sound, and the heat, the combination of that sound and the heat is like purgatory to me. It's like hell. And then the little cricket sings, in the mornings. You can hear that cricket, and the locusts go away, and I know autumn is here, and I celebrate the crickets. Crickets. This is also an Ars Poetica. For anybody who might not know, that is a poem about writing. Crickets. In all these days and years, the only thing I've learned is that a poem needs an engine. Not a newscaster with ski slope hair, but colorful sweaters from old dead ants. Crumpled Kleenex, the frayed edges of gossip. A poem is about all the things that happen in the meantime, while you were airing the pillows, driving a carpool. All you missed airing right at the future knows what it won't tell you. There is a radio dial we can go and listen to all of us breathing together, rubbing our chasm of souls in an all-night diner. A poem needs magic, a bell, a hammer, a noise inside a noise. Never the same thing twice. Only the pathos that comes over a crowd, the sound of night, eavesdropping on the day. Listen to the glyphs the branches make on a moonlit night. It tenders no apologies for bad haircuts. It will howl with all your dogs in the alleyways of cigarette butts. A poem needs an engine, not to be sedated as arts and crafts, and flower. No, it needs the wheels to spin in the dirt where someone is kissing for the first time. It needs a wine glass stomped on at a wedding, even if it ends in divorce. One of the things I write a lot about is mental health, and I had a lineage, a long line of my sister is schizophrenic, my father was bipolar, I too have all kinds of weird depression, and I think our culture just needs to talk about this, like, it's our physical health, like we talk about, and not make it so taboo as we do. And one of the things I really hate is when people talk about mental illness as opposed to mental health, because mental illness is they, and mental health is all of us, and we all have mental health. So I always like to just try to, say something about that, because I think we need to laugh about it. We've all, especially with COVID, it's been some dark days and it's been lonely, and we've really had to check in with ourselves in a way, that's somewhat different. So anyway, I just wanted to say a thing or two about what I write about. But in this book, I felt like the culture itself, I was writing about my family in my second book and dealing with mental health problems. But in this book, I was thinking about our culture and, excuse me, for instance, I think our obsession with the internet is kind of unhealthy. And I remember a day when I would get up in the morning and I didn't have 500 people on my feed. I was alone. I went into the business of writing thinking it was a lone process. And now I find out I've got 500 people in my day and I only know 10 of them, but, well, oh well. All right, so this is called, I can find it. I can't find my own poem, I'm sorry. All right, well, I'll read God is a Medicine Cabinet. Speaking of mental health, God is a medicine cabinet. This is egregious. The mind's parlor is being wooed before breakfast, even before hitting the sticky gymnasium floor. The keys to your ethos held accountable in a drowning pool of munitions, swerving on the slick road like mood hoodlums on the lam. You're offered a cigarette on the front lines to come back and report on the internal conflict. Yes, every day is triage. You are the wedge between East and West. You are someone else's war chest. The pharmacist's widow sanctioned pills like beads in a rosary. Every day, you are a cloud held up by toothpicks. Battle-weary and bootlegged to the nth. Every suitcase holds crimped labels implying you have filled out many forms. You've crossed boundary lines while red sirens howl. On 2 feet, you landed here, a cotton knoll down a lane of pretend. That moment when as a kid, you learned how to swallow and let go. I'm just going to read a couple more poems, and thank you guys for coming out on a rainy night in Florida. Is there a rainy night in Georgia? Is there a rainy night in Florida too? Speaking of my sister, here's a poem about my sister and watching her get sick as a younger. I was younger than her, and what happened is that our roles changed when she got sick. I became the older sister, and that packing order in a family is shouldn't be changed. And it was kind of altered, so that was a little bit difficult and awkward in our relationship. She died a few years ago. She was on a lot of heavy drugs, and they do a number on your internal organs. This is called Foundry. Foundry. At the factory of lullabies, fonts, and DNA, a birthday book was forged. Fairy dust and pulp, cherry perfume, loitering in spines after curfew. We wave to ourselves as reflections in a store window into a time that has already happened. Deep forts erected from sheets, blankets, terry cloth towels held by nightstands and flowered beds. When you laid out the tarot cards next to the pink-haired trolls, I wondered if we were beings made from other materials. Caterpillar silk of doll hair, crisp paper archived from a tree. This is nature's perfection, hand-hewn with all the provisions. Just a few flaws. Throw the disease into a jar. When they met by committee, you were called to bigger things.